So last class we have seen about introduction about embedded systems, that is the definition of embedded system and what are the components inside the embedded system and significance of embedded system and some of the application and difference between your computer systems and embedded system. Okay. So what are the components of embedded system? Can anyone tell me? What are the components of embedded system?
Hardware,
hardware,
application software, real-time operating
Okay.
system.
So there are three components basically. Okay. So the first one is the hardware, second one is the application software, third one is the real-time operating system. Okay. So the main importance of hardware is that it embeds hardware similar to your computer, as its software usually embeds in
ma'am, roll number 52%, ma'am.
roll number roll number 52. Okay. So software usually embeds in the ROM and flash memory, ROM or flash memory. So it usually doesn't need a secondary hard disk and CD memory as in the computer system. And second important component is application software. Okay, so your embedded system integrates main application software. So this software may concurrently perform series of tasks or multiple tasks or process or threads. Okay. So for any application, the programmer or user has to develop this application program, and this program should be integrated into your hardware. Okay. And third one is the real-time operating system. So it embeds real-time operating system that supervises the application software. Okay. So the definition of RTOS is it defines the way the embedded system works. So it set the rules during the execution of application software. So why this RTOS is necessary? Why this RTOS component is necessary in an embedded system?
It defines
Huh?
it defines the way the system works and also it
Okay.
sets the rules during execution of application software. Ma'am.
Hmm. Why it is required exclusively for embedded system applications? How it is
Ma'am,
differentiated?
it supervises the application software running on hardware, ma'am.
Okay, very good. So how this RTOS is differentiated from your general purpose OS operating system?
For small application, no operating system is needed.
So small applications don't require real-time OS. Actually, in embedded software is most often designed for performing multiple actions and controlling multiple devices. So for that case, it is essential to have an multitasking software. And RTAS has the multitasking capability. That's why the RTAS component is very much required in case of embedded system. Okay, please note it down. So the RTAS is nothing but a multitasking software. So your embedded software is most often designed for performing multiple actions and controlling multiple devices. For that case, multitasking application software is required. So the sophisticated embedded system applications uh, should have an RTAS to handle multiple tasks simultaneously. Is that clear, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this diagram is the general block diagram of embedded system. So the main heart of the circuit is a microcontroller. So this microcontroller can be a RISC processor or CISC processor. So either from a RISC family or CISC family. So can you give me the example for CISC family microcontrollers? Complicated instruction set computers.
8051, ma'am.
8051 is the complicated instruction set computer. And can you give me the example for RISC?
ARM.
ARM and PIC microcontroller. So the heart of the embedded system is the RISC family microcontrollers or CISC family microcontrollers. So in this application, you can develop, that is, we can develop our lightweight program either in assembly or using embedded system with software like Hail Microvision IDE, and after developing that, burn the program into the hardware. Okay. So these programs keep on running in a loop in this embedded system. And in embedded system, a single program is burned with several subroutines. Okay. So unlike your PC, in embedded system runs a single program indefinitely. And we can connect several input and output devices. Here you can see these are the input devices and these are the output devices. So we can connect several input and output devices with these microcontroller, which are either memory mapped or input output mapped. Okay. So these simple hardware includes LCD display, buzzer, keypad, or even a printer. Okay. And you can connect several sensors through A2D interface. So look at this block, we have several sensors. We can integrate these sensors to the microcontroller through A2D interface, analog to digital interface. And also the devices can control high power voltage current rating devices like fans, motors, bulbs using drives devices like relay optocoupler and so on. So we can connect actuators, relay, switch and PWM devices to this system. So this is the overall, it's like a general block diagram. So we have a microcontroller and we can connect sensors, and also it has the capability of interfacing input devices and output devices, and that devices can be either memory mapped or IO mapped, and we can control the devices like fans and motor using this microcontroller. So this microcontroller can be a CISC microcontroller or RISC microcontroller. So after the output generation, either the output will be notified by using LED or buzzer. So these are the main components involved in the embedded system. Is that clear? Do you have any doubts? So this is the overall hardware structure. So we have microcontroller component, input output devices, sensor and controller. Sensor can communicate with microcontroller through A2D interface. Okay. So because sensor reads the analog input, okay. So your microcontroller can accept digital. So this analog is converted into digital through analog to digital interfacing devices. For that we can use ADC interface. For analog output generation, we have to use DAC. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So next, embedded system design. So to understand the design of simple embedded system, let's consider the idea of data acquisition system. Okay. So these are the typical embedded system components. One is the sensor. So this sensor could be a digital sensor and analog sensor. And this block is the analog to digital converter. And this is your processing element. So this could be your microprocessor or microcontroller. Display devices and converting digital to analog, we can have D to A converter. Based on the output through actuators, the devices are controlled. So what is the purpose of this sensor?
It produces the analog signals.
Huh? So let's assume the sensor is a temperature sensor.
Produces the temperature which is analog and gives it to A bar D converter.
Yes, actually allow the system to read the environment. So it will read the physical parameters like temperature and humidity. And what is the purpose of this processing element? So what is the purpose of processing element?
Performs the necessary actions on the digital data obtained.
Okay. So it's like a controlling elements, controlling the surrounding environment which are connected to this particular system. So control of the embedded system. Okay. And actuators. So what is the actuator?
Motors, they
No? Motor? No, one second, ma. One second.
Converting signal into actions, man.
One second, one second. So what is actuator?
produce the rotational motion in the distance.
One second. So what is the purpose of actuator?
On receiving the output signal, they produce a rotational motion in the distance.
Yes, actually allow the system to act on its environment. Okay. And here we have some requires some network connection. So that can be a local or internet connection allowing exchange of information. Okay. So let me consider a simple case of temperature measurement embedded system. Okay. So first we have to select temperature sensor like thermistor. So thermistor or ADC, ADC, AD590, LM35 or LM75. So first we have to select the temperature sensor. So it can be a thermistor or AD590, LM35 sensor or LM75 sensor. So once the sensor senses the environment temperature, that signal should be converted into digital by using analog to digital converter. Okay. So analog is converted into digital data and at the same time proper signal conditioning is done. Okay. So what is the purpose of signal conditioning here? So signal conditioning means manipulating an analog signal in such a way that it meets the requirement of the next stage for further processing. Okay. So in this block we have analog to digital converter and sample and hold circuit. Okay. So this digital input is fed to the microcontroller through its ports. Okay. So by developing a suitable program, either in embedded C or assembly, the data is processed and controlled. So this is the overall system hardware design of your embedded system. So you should have a sensor. It's based on the application requirement, and it can be a temperature sensor or humidity sensor or any type of sensor. So that sensor will senses the environmental. That is the input. Based on the output, the devices are controlled. Okay, so this is the embedded system hardware environment. Okay,
Ma'am,
yes.
ma'am, after displaying the processed information, why should we convert it to analog again?
Actually, these two are integrated now. It's like a single block. Okay, after so this is for digital display. Suppose if some application, the output is will be recorded in the form of digital. So that case we have to use LCD display, okay, for displaying the digital output. Suppose in case of analog output, we need to connect this digital to analog converter.
Okay.
Okay. The next topic is the classification of embedded systems. So embedded system is broadly classified into three categories: small scale embedded system, medium scale embedded system, and sophisticated embedded system. So we will see one by one. So first one is the small scale embedded system. Actually, the small scale embedded systems are designed with a single 8-bit or 16-bit microcontroller. Okay, so they involved in the board level design, and they have little hardware and software complexities. So they involved in board level design. So examples of small scale embedded systems are automatic chocolate vending machine, stepper motor controllers, washing and cooking system, and multitasking toys. Okay, so they are designed with 8-bit or 16-bit microcontrollers. So the complexity is very less. Okay, and some of the tools are required to develop the small scale embedded system. So the tools can be an editor, assembler, cross assembler, or IDE environment. Okay, or using C programming language, we can develop small scale embedded systems. Okay. And next one is the medium scale embedded system. So this medium scale embedded system designed with single or few 16-bit, 32-bit microcontrollers. 16 or 32-bit microcontroller or digital signal processor or RISC processors. So they have both the hardware and software complexity, since the 16 and 32-bit processor is involved. Compared to small scale embedded system, they have more hardware and software complexity. Okay, and also some of the tools are required to develop this medium scale embedded systems. So the tools are RTOS. RTOS is compulsory, and C programming tool, C++, Java, or any processor specific IDE. So it's mainly used in signal processing environment like signal tracking systems, image filtering, image processing, and speech processing. Okay. And third one is the sophisticated embedded system. So they have more hardware and software complexities. because they may need several instruction processor, that is instruction set processor. Please note it down. Several IPs, instruction processor, application specific instruction processes, and scalable processes, and PLAs. So it requires high-end processor. So they have more hardware and software complexities, and also it requires, yes,
What is ASIP, ma'am?
ASP is application specific instruction processor. IP is instruction processor. So these are all multi-core processor. Okay. So it contains more than one core, more than one processor inside the single IC. And certain functions, that is certain software functions such as encryption, inverse transformation algorithm, and TCP/IP protocol stacking, and network driver functions, and your distributed environment, distributed protocol environment are implemented in the hardware itself. Okay, so they make scalable processor, configurable processor, and programmable logic arrays. And development tools for these systems may not be readily available at reasonable cost, and sometimes may not be available at all. So it's mainly used in mobile computers, okay? That's laptop, mobile smartphones, embedded systems for wireless LAN, embedded systems for video, interactive video, broadband, IP version 6 internet, real-time video, and speech and multimedia processing systems. So this system mainly focusing on high-end applications. It may require multi-core environment. Okay, it requires multiple processor in order to incorporate a particular application. Is it clear, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So just you look at this. So these are some of the example of small scale processors, medium scale processor, and sophisticated embedded system processor. So in small scale embedded applications, we can use this Motorola processor 68HE05, 68HE08, PIC microcontrollers, 8051 microcontrollers. So they are designed with either 8-bit or 16-bit microcontrollers. Okay. And second one is the medium scale embedded system. So this system may require 16-bit or 32-bit microprocessor or microcontroller. So these systems can be developed by using 8051 family, Intel family, and this is 8251 family, x86 family, Motorola family, and this is also from Intel. 8196. And sophisticated embedded system may require ARM 7 or 9 processor environment, PowerPC, and Intel family processors. So this is the one of the high end, 80960CA. So these processes can be used to develop sophisticated embedded system applications.
Ma'am, can you show us the sophisticated embedded system slide once?
Yes. 39, can you repeat that?
Ma'am, can you show us the sophisticated embedded systems slide once? The
Yes.
previous.
Yes.
Yes, 1 second. Thank you.
See, in this sophisticated embedded system, just you take the example automotive. So in automotive, there are several microcontrollers. There is more than 1,000 microcontrollers sitting inside the system to control the all the operations of automobile. Okay, so that case, the particular system may require hardware and software co-design. So the car is completely controlled by more than 1,000 microcontrollers.
Thank you, ma'am.
So my next question is, which is the best suited microcontroller for the design of embedded system? So in another way, what parameters need to be considered to select a specific microcontroller? Can you understand the question?
Yes, sir.
Yes. See, there is always trade-off between efficiency of the microcontroller and power dissipation of the microcontroller. So in that case, how can you select the best suited microcontroller for developing embedded system application? What are the parameters are to be considered?
Size, power
Memory.
efficiency.
Size of the processor. So what parameters are to be considered? First one is the size of the processor. And second one is about memory. Third one is about instruction set. Fourth one is about memory architecture. And fifth one is about family of the microcontroller. Okay. So we have to consider different types. There is various types of specification, and also we have to we have to consider the different vendors for selecting the microcontrollers. Okay. So just you look at this diagram. So we need to consider the size of the microcontroller. So it can be a 8-bit microcontroller, or 16-bit microcontroller, or 32-bit microcontroller. So based on the application. And also the IC chip, okay, either it can be a integrated chip or VLSI core. And also you have to look into the memory size. So it can be a embedded microcontroller or external memory microcontroller. So what is the difference between these two, embedded microcontroller and external memory microcontroller? So in embedded memory controller, program, data memory, IO ports, serial communication, timer and counter, okay, everything integrated on a chip. Okay. In external memory, has not all the functional blocks available on a chip. So we need to connect external memory. So these factors need to be considered to select a particular microcontroller system. Okay. And also family, we have a variety of family, microcontroller family. It can be Intel, Philips, Atmel, Siemens, Dulles, and also Motorola, PIC microcontroller, Hitachi, Texas, ARM, and many vendors are available. Okay. And we need to fix the instruction set. Either it can be a complicated instruction set or reduced instruction set. And coming into the memory architecture, it can be a hardware architecture or von Neumann architecture. So there are various type of microcontrollers and also specifications and also different vendors. So based on the application, we need to select the particular microcontroller based on the features of the applications. Okay. So coming into the power consumption, power dissipation. So here consider this arm, okay. So arm takes 400 milliwatt, okay, and this Atmel takes 16.5 milliwatt. Okay, so which one is efficient? ARM is efficient or Atmel is efficient? Huh? So this Atmel is efficient, okay, considering the power consumption. When we consider the power consumption, in case of ARM, it is around 400 milliwatt. In case of AVR microcontroller, that is Atmel microcontroller, 16.5 microcontroller, 16.5 milliwatt, okay. So, but in case of Atmel, it provides low performance compared to ARM. So we need to select this ARM, okay, because the performance is the important parameters of embedded system. Since it takes 400 milliwatt, even though it will provide high performance, so ARM is the best choice compared with the Atmel microcontrollers, because Atmel provides low performance, okay. So it is left to the designer to choose a suitable device according to the requirement, okay. And also in Texas microcontroller, just you take this MSB 430 mixed signal processor. So it takes 1.2 milliwatt with good performance. So these are the various microcontrollers available in the market, and we need to consider the size of the processor. Before selecting any processor, we need to consider the size, memory device, and IC structure, family of the processor, instruction set, power consumption, and memory architecture. So these parameters are to be considered to choose a particular microcontroller, okay. So according to the requirement, we have to select the microcontroller. So before we start the ARM Cortex M4 architecture, so let's understand two terminologies. One is the von Neumann and hardware. There is difference between von Neumann and hardware architecture. And the other one is the RISC and CISC computers. Okay. So you are aware of this one. So what is the difference between von Neumann and hardware? So there are basically two types of digital computer architecture. One is the von Neumann architecture and other one is the hardware architecture. So in von Neumann case, the instructions and data are stored in the same memory. So we have only one memory. Both your program instructions and data will be stored in the memory. Simple and inexpensive access to data or instruction one at a time. So that is the disadvantage of this von Neumann. In case of hardware architecture, data and instructions are stored in separate memory. So we have separate memory for storing instruction and separate memory for storing data items. So compared to the von Neumann, it will perform faster performance and energy efficient, and we can have different bus systems. Okay, just you compare these two diagrams and tell me the difference in architectural features of von Neumann and hardware. So this architecture is the von Neumann architecture and this is the hardware architecture.
Separate blocks are there for the instruction memory and data memory.
Okay, here instruction and data memory.
Are
Instruction
being together in one.
single memory. Here we have different memory. Okay, So in case of von Neumann, just first I will explain this von Neumann, okay? So the computer has single storage system, okay, for storing data as well as program to be executed, okay? So program to be executed and data are stored in a single memory. So the important thing is the processor, okay, requires 2 clock cycles to execute a single instruction, okay? It requires 2 clock cycles. So in the first clock cycle, the processor gets the instruction from memory. First it will get the instruction from memory and decoded, okay? And next cycle, the required data was taken from memory. So 2 clock cycles are required to execute a single instruction. 1 clock cycle is for fetching the instruction and another clock cycle is for fetching the data, okay? For each instruction, this cycle repeats, hence needs a 2 clock cycle to complete an instruction. The important thing is the disadvantage of von Neumann is the pipelining is not at all possible. Okay, pipelining is not at all possible with this architecture. So it has only one bus which is used for both instruction fetches and data transfer. So both instruction fetch and data transfer cannot be performed at the same time. Okay.
Ma'am,
Yes.
what is pipelining, ma'am?
Pipelining. I will explain that. In the hardware case, I will explain that.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So, in case of hardware architecture, the computer has 2 separate memory for storing data and program. Okay. So, your processor complete instruction in 1 cycle. Okay. If appropriate pipelining strategies are implemented. Okay. So, pipelining is possible. So the first stage of pipeline, the instruction to be executed can be taken from the memory, okay? So first it will generate single clock cycle, okay? The single clock cycle, first it will fetches the instruction. It will fetch the instruction, okay? So the instruction to be executed can be taken from the program memory. And second stage of the pipeline, data is taken from the data memory using decoded instructions are addressed. Okay. Just you look at this diagram, you can understand the pipelining structure. So consider this instruction. Okay. So in single clock cycle, it is able to perform the instructions fetch, decode and execute. Okay, first it will fetches the instruction at the program counter address. Second step, decode the instruction, and third step, execute the instruction. Okay, so during the decoding the first instruction, the second instruction will be fetched. Okay, is that clear? And during the decoding of second instruction, the third instruction will be fetched. Okay. And during the execution of first instruction, your second instruction will be decoded. During the execution of second instruction, the third instruction will be decoded. Okay. So it will perform simultaneous, that's parallel operation. So consider this is clock cycle 1. The first instruction. So this is your first instruction. So your first instruction is fetched from the program memory. Okay. And during the decoding process of first instruction, at the same time, the second instruction will be fetched. Is that clear? And during the execution of first instruction, the second instruction will be decoded. And during the execution of second instruction, the third instruction will be decoded. So parallelly, it will execute the 3 instructions in a single clock cycle. So fetches for Loading the instruction from memory. Decode is for identifying the instruction, and execute for identifying and perform the operation based on the instruction. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So within a single clock cycle, your processor can able to perform, able to execute 3 different instructions. So that is the importance of pipelining architecture, and this is for 3-state pipelining. For high-end processor, we can have 9-stage and 11-stage also. So high-end ARM Cortex and ARM Cortex M3 and M4 processor, it has 9-stage pipelining or 11-stage pipelining in order to speed up the execution of the program. So this is the difference between von Neumann and Harvard. So the main important thing is in von Neumann case, the pipelining architecture is not at all possible. Pipelining is not at all implemented. It just cannot be implemented in von Neumann architecture. In Harvard architecture, we can include pipelining strategies in order to improve the performance of the process. Is it clear, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Just you go through the differences. It is used in conventional processors. It is used in DSP processors and latest embedded systems. Data and programs are stored in the same memory, separate memory. Code is executed serially. Here, code is executed in parallel. And no exclusive multiplier here. It has multiply and accumulate unit. Okay. And absence of parent shifter. I will explain this later. Okay. And program can be optimized in lesser size, and program tend to grow big in size. The next one is the difference between CISC and RISC. So what
Can you go to the previous line once, ma'am?
Huh?
Thank you, ma'am.
Can anyone explain the difference between CISC and RISC? So what is the difference between CISC architecture and RISC architecture? So your ARM core uses RISC architecture, reduced instruction set architecture. So what is the disadvantage of CISC?
Clock cycle.
Clock cycle. Actually, in complicated instruction set computers, has more number of instructions, and more number of addressing modes. And it has large number of complex instructions. Okay, but in case of reduced instruction set computers, it has less number of instructions. And all the instructions are executed in a single clock cycle. So RISC is aimed at delivering simple and powerful instructions that execute within a single clock cycle at highest clock speed. Okay. So the instructions are very simple that execute within a single clock cycle at high clock speed. Okay. So let me explain the major difference between RISC and CISC. Okay. So So look at this diagram, and this diagram consisting of two components, compiler and your processor. Okay, CISC processor, and here compiler and RISC processor. Okay? So coming into the CISC architecture, okay, complication relies more on the hardware side since it has more number of instructions. So complication lies on the hardware for instruction functionality because CISC instructions are more complicated. So complication relies on processor side. Okay? But in case of RISC, concentrates on reducing the complexity of the instruction performed by this hardware and places greatest demands on the compiler side. So complication relies on compiler side and reduces the complexity on the hardware side. So that is the difference between RISC and CISC processor. So the red box indicates more complex and blue box indicates less complex. So in CISC processor, complexity is more on processor side, and in RISC processor, complexity is more on compiler side. So RISC processor have a reduced number of instruction classes, and these classes provide simple operations that can each execute in a single clock cycle. So what the compiler will do is, so the compiler, a programmer doing complicated operations, for example, division operation, the compiler has to combine several simple instructions. So complication relies on compiler side, not on the hardware side. Are you able to follow?
Yes, ma'am.
So these are the differences between RISC and CISC. So kindly note down the difference. So next class we will see about the Cortex-A4 architecture. Do you have any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, I have one suggestion. Ma'am,
Yes.
can you send us the PPT beforehand, ma'am, before the next class so that we can note down things, ma'am, and then when you're teaching.
I have posted the PPT in the Google Classroom. Please check it out.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
Okay. Day before yesterday, I have posted.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, students. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.